Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello, Billy Ho here, coming at you. This is round two, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs 2022 season. We are in 2023 celebrating Cowboys' victory last week and hopefully move on and don't get their heads caved in this week. Welcome to the Billy Ho Sports DraftKings show. We're going to break down the 4-game slate. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, join the contest, check the description. There's all kinds of stuff in there. My article is out and published. I break down all 4 games, give you a preview of stacks and plays, a little bit of injuries, but not too bad. Most all the teams are healthy and ready to rock. Shout out to my man Squirrel. Glad you're home from the hospital, buddy. Good to see you engaged in the Discord. And we're going to get to cracking here on this 4-game slate. So let's get her started. Yeah. Alrighty then. This is my article web page, I guess, Google Sites. And I always publish the link on Twitter. So follow me at Billy Ho Sports. Publish it in the Discord. You can join for absolutely free. And that link is in the description. I have actually been posting them in the comments section just because I don't know if people are just too lazy or they don't think about it to click show more. And then it lists everything you can do on the YouTube page. So I went ahead and did that. And we're going to get started. Subscribe now. You click that link and just say yes to Billy Ho. That's how we do. Division 4 playoffs. There's the link to the contest. Boom. 50-man contest. $2 entry. The top 2 are paid in the worst way. So join that contest. It's fun. And it's a good way to get 50, 60 bucks, whatever. We don't fill it all the time, but it runs no matter what. So welcome to the playoffs. And we'll do it again one more time for old Jim Mora. Shout out to him. And our first game of the week is going to be the Jacksonville at Kansas City, 4:30 p.m. Big Brother time, Eastern Standard. And there is some rain and snow mixture in the forecast that starts about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but there's little to no wind. So I think we're looking good on the game. Some people might see the snow and maybe get off of it a little bit, but all the games are outdoors, so we're all dealing with climate here. So this is what we're looking at here, and we're going to jump over. This is just a little breakdown. I just wanted to give you a look at the article. I break down players. I highlight and bold pricing and plays the players that I mentioned. They all, shout out to them. And there's the other 2 games on Sunday. I give spread totals and team totals and just all that kind of good stuff. So I just wanted to give you all a good look at that. So check it out. It's totally free. And do this. See that? Bam. Click that subscribe button on the videos. That's what we're looking for. So Jacksonville, Kansas City. So the first thing I wanted to do is if you do not, Mahomes is the man. He's at home playing against Jacksonville. There's no reason why he won't drop 30 in this game. And he is discounted $400. So you're going to get, of course, a little bit of an off game against the Vegas team. But that was, things were already decided. The Vegas, they had a big lead, so he didn't need to do a whole lot there to secure the number 1 seed and the bye. So interesting though, if they win and Buffalo wins, they will play in the Georgia Dome, neutral site, FYI on that one. So Mahomes is obviously a stellar play. You can just put a pencil through this LV game. And he's got 29, 23, 35, 25. His floor is about 22, and I'd say his ceiling's 40. So play him naked or play him with Kelsey. I've been on the fade train with Kelsey lately just because he's 7,700. And everybody's like, well, he's wide receiver. That's why. Well, yeah, he is. But tight ends in general, he is different because he has massive touchdown upside. But you can see he's going to get the targets and the catches. But where's the yardage? 38, 43. I mean, he could crack 100. Don't get him wrong, but you ain't going to see him unless it's a really, really outlier game, 115, 106, barely. He's not getting the Justin Jefferson 90, 199, 200 yard, Stephon Diggs, 175 yard, Jamar Chase. These guys, just real quick before we get back to the Jacksonville, 70, he's only $100 more. And if you don't think he's got 152 touchdown upside, Diggs is the same price. AJ Brown, CD Lamb, all these guys are better plays than Travis Kelsey, in my opinion. Kelsey does have the advantage of the touchdown upside, but he's got to get those touchdowns, right? And since Jerick McKinnon hit the scene several weeks back, he's been getting a lot of those goal line looks. So jumping over here, we are going to look at Pacheco. I think he's an interesting pick. If you don't want to play Mahomes, then you play Pacheco. He doesn't have he's only 5,500. And he doesn't, I don't think you're going to see you could, but I don't think, unless he rips off like a 70-yard touchdown, you're going to get 60 to 90 yards rushing and a touchdown. If you get 2 touchdowns, you're dancing. So hopefully you can get that, because every touchdown he gets on the ground is a touchdown Mahomes doesn't get. Now, Mahomes, typically, this is going to be playoff. This is the first playoff game. So he might play it a little closer to the vest, and you might see him call his own number at the goal line. So that is always possible, but he's always a threat for 300. He's always going to throw multiple touchdowns. If he don't get 2 to 4 touchdowns in this game, I would be surprised. So his floor is like 275 and 2, and the ceiling is probably 380 and 4 to 5, or something like that. So if you're going to pair him up, I don't mind pairing him up with Jerick McKinnon at 6K, because McKinnon gets, although he didn't get, this was Las Vegas game, so I'm going to kind of toss that, but he gets 5-6 targets a lot, 8 targets, 9 targets. He's got potential. So as a 6K running back, you're not going to get the attempts. So just keep that in mind. What you're going to have to rely on is targets and yaks, run, yards after the catch, dump offs out of the backfield he can take for 40, 50 yards, things of that nature. So wide receiver wise, I can't really say, and we're just talking about Kansas City right now. I'll get into Jacksonville here in a second. Smith-Schuster, I don't trust him. He's capable, but middling. He'd had that 110 target for 88-yard game, and then he had a big game here against Denver. But really, everything else is single digits. I mean, I don't know, man. Tough call there. The guy that I think might be the sleeper of the bunch is Kadarius Toney. Now, even though he went 2 for 18 yards here, he had 4 out of 4 for 71. He got 3 attempts, and they were mostly inside the red zone. He got a touchdown. You remember this was the game, I think Mahomes threw it to him and he scored, and then it got called back or something for a penalty. So then they just handed it off to him and he scored. So for a guy at 4,100, I think double digits are pretty doable, but I think his upside could be is if he gets this 71 yards and then he gets another 26 and 2 touchdowns, something like that is possible. So Toney and McKinnon, if you want to pivot off of Kelsey, that's who you can stack with Mahomes. I kind of like that, actually. And then moving over to my man, T-Law, Trevor Lawrence, and that's still the big toe. He's going to play, but I think the only problem you're going to have is the yardage. His rushing upside is going to be nil. So you're going to need, and this is the game for it, actually, on the road at Kansas City. He's not going to throw 4 interceptions in the first quarter, But he could throw one or two interceptions in this game if they get down and they start getting in desperation mode. So the Kansas City Chiefs defense is not a bad idea. And I think they're run about $3,100 on DraftKings. All the defenses are cheap, so they're going to spread around. That was the one thing jumping over here. It just made me think of it. I'm going to try to do a little bit with ownership here, but all the QBs are in play. So I think that there's no worry on ownership there. All the tight ends are play, with the exception of the Giants. Bellinger is the least in play. You can play him. I mean, he's the option there. You can click him. But the rest of the 7 teams actually utilize their tight ends as a key piece of their offense. So that's going to be spread out. So ownership will be all right there. So if you want to just pop in Trevor Lawrence, you already know it's Kirk, it's Jones, and it's Ingram. That's your 3-man rotation right there. If you want to onslaught this, you can run it back with Patui Chomp or whatever, and then you can play the Chiefs D if you just wanted to get jiggy. I mean, it's whatever you want to do. I mean, that leaves you $6,800 a player, so that's a pretty damn cheap stack, I think. So we'll clear the board on that. And I believe that covers everybody. Oh, Etienne was the last guy I wanted to mention. He looked good. I've been kind of poo-pooing him, but he played really hard in that game against the Chargers. They were down 27-0, but they didn't give up on him. He got 20 carries for 109 yards. He had the key 25-yard run. See, he got 100 yards on 20 carries, and that's grinding 5.5 a carry. Only one reception. I do think it's possible that he gets more. I mean, if he could get 3 for 32, that's a touchdown, right? So we're good there. So you can run on Kansas City. I feel pretty good about that. So I like his floor at about 15, ceiling at 26, somewhere in that range. 6,400 is a bit pricey, and he probably will be popular because the DFS industry loves them some Travis Etienne. So next game up, New York Giants, the G-Men, and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the Saturday night game. And this one's going to be interesting. It's always interesting when division rivals meet in the playoffs. You can throw out week 18 because Daniel Jones sat, Barkley sat. They didn't play their guys. So at least maybe technically it's only the second meeting, which is kind of interesting in itself. But the first meeting was an absolute blowout victory at Philadelphia. I don't think the same thing happens again. I think the Giants have more of a cohesive unit as far as their wide receivers and play calling and coaching and defense and everything. And Daniel Jones seems to be playing with about as much confidence as he ever has played with. He had the game of his career last week at Minnesota where he was throwing all over them and running all over them early and often. So I like that about him. He was my dude last week. I played him in all 3 of the 3 max tournament that I played in, and I got really close to hitting a GPP. It was just my own dumbass having the Giants defense instead of the Dolphins or somebody else. The Giants scored 0 points. So I really didn't get anything. Then that sucks. So question you got to ask yourself this week, Jalen Hurts, is he going to play free and run free like he did before he hurt his shoulder, where you're going to get the rushing yards of the 77s and the 157s and him calling his own number at the goal line? Are you going to see that? I don't know. If your answer is yes, you're going to play him, whether it's a single entry or not. I mean, you almost have to, because if he's going to get 61 yards and a touchdown, he is expensive, but then you can go with the whole naked scenario or play him. If you think he's going to run, you only need one pass catcher. That's my 2 cents on that. If you don't think he's going to run, then I would probably lean toward fading him and then one-offing the pieces, because maybe he gets one wide receiver there. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are both expensive. It's like $22,400 to stack Brown, Smith, and Hurts together. and I think it's only about 16,000 or something and change to stack Lawrence, Kirk, Jones, Zay Jones, and Ingram. So you're doing the same thing. Of course, you got to throw Goddard in the rotation because he's the guy. So what you could do if you did want to stack two is one of them's got to be Goddard because you're spending too much salary, in my opinion, if you stack the two big dogs. And it's really, really hard. There's rare occasions. I don't know how many games he's gotten them both there, but not that many. He could have against the Giants last time they played, but they got up so fast that they didn't need him anymore. They both had touchdowns. They both had 70 yards. They both had about 18 points, but it wasn't enough to, do what they needed to do. Daniel Jones is well, speaking of this, we'll stick with Philadelphia. Miles Sanders had the monster game when they played week 14, 5,700. He's still kind of hard for me to trust, honestly, because you still have Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. Boston Scott I think he got a touchdown in the last game, but they were really, playing against the team. They had that game won before they got on the field, in my opinion. So Boston Scott, they could really rely on Sanders. He could have a monster game. Check your ownership. A lot of people don't play him. People are going to probably still play Barkley, but I'm leaning against it because Philly's defense is just so tough. So anyway, moving over to the wide receivers, you had Brown. I told you about Devontae Smith. If you want to take a shot at Quez, then so you can. He doesn't seem to be getting the downfield thing anymore. He gets a couple of targets, 2 for 4, but he's averaging like 7. He did average 19 in that game, but he only caught the one pass. So 7 yards a catch, 1.5, 4.8. He doesn't. This is where he used to get down, way down here. So I'm not too hip on Quez. Now moving over to Danny Dimes. I'm going to shy away from that. He's playing. It was such a perfect scenario. They had already played the Vikings once, and he had a good game. They were going right back to the same weak defense. I mean, it was kind of obvious to me that he was going to have a good game, and it was just getting the right pieces together. So that's why I used him in all 3 maxes, and that way I had Barkley and Hodgins, Barkley and Slayton, Barkley and James, and rotating in and out like that, the 3 different ways. And I think I did finally hit Barkley. I had him with Barkley and Hodgins, and then I had like Chase down low and all that good stuff. And I was pushing a GPP, but that was actually the main slate. I was pushing a GPP, but the Bucks D got the goose egg. So defense has killed me last week. Let's put it that way. Daniel Jones, I'm going to shy away from because I don't think he's going to have the success running. Barkley, I think he's going to have a hard time on the ground. The wide receivers, obviously, Hodgins and Slayton, they both got kind of shut down the last time they played week 14. They're better players, more confident now, but those corners for Philadelphia are legit. The guy I would play is Richie James. He's the one that actually had the good game. If you go back to week 14, he had 7 for 61 and a touchdown, 3,900. He's a one-off piece or a run-back piece. So if you do stack that side, you got you a cheap $3,900 run back right there. Tight ends, told you Bellinger's not worth it. Juice ain't worth the squeeze there. Defenses, you could play Eagles D. Back in before 4 times, Danny Dimes turned the ball over a lot. So you never know. He may regress back to that form. So on to Sunday. Cincinnati Buffalo, first game, probably the best game of the weekend, I would say. These two teams they had the canceled game with Hamlin a few weeks back, and they're going to play again. So there's probably going to be some sort of like Hamlin ceremony where they bring Hamlin out and they're going to honor him before the game. I guarantee it. He's been in the facility all week long. So it's going to be a big boost to Buffalo emotionally. And I think Cincinnati is going to just, appreciate it as well. They were very, very engaged in like big ups to Hamlin and all that good stuff. So here we go. Josh Allen, if he makes mistakes like he did last week, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles, 1 lost, they're going to get beat. But they were playing Miami, who couldn't really keep up, move the ball as well until after he started making mistakes toward the end of the first half. He could have put this baby to bed early, but he didn't. So that allowed him to get up to 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's he's always willing to help out the fantasy people that played, but he didn't have to run the ball as much. He hasn't the last few times. But this time around, I think that might be where you see the 77 and maybe a touchdown. So he's definitely a good play at 7,800. I think I might like him a little bit more than Mahomes because he has better receivers and they all got in the mix. Diggs, I would start with, but then big game Gabe Davis come through finally. So he had a great game. McKenzie, keep an eye on him. He's not showing an injury designation. He practiced in full, I do believe, but he was inactive last week with a hamstring. So that allowed for these guys down here, Beasley and Shakur, to Beasley got a touchdown and Shakur had like 5 for 50 or something like that. So I don't think they get in a mix as much this week. McKenzie, I think, will be back. He may get more snaps, but it's going to be Diggs or nothing for me anyway. So I'll go with, if I did stack, I'd go Allen Diggs and then run it back with Chase. Or if I don't have the salary, Hurst. So, going with Joe Burrow, he's a little cheaper. He does run some. By the way, no interest in Singletary or Cook this week. No thanks. Joe Mixon, I would be interested in. He might be low owned. He struggled to get it going last week against the Ravens. So he could be a guy that could do some damage. Jeff Wilson ran pretty hard against him last week, and Mixon is obviously, I think, a more talented running back than that. Mixon catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. That's kind of low key too. And Joe Burrow, if I stack Joe Burrow, the first thing I'm doing without a doubt is putting Chase in. Now, if you want to try Higgins, you can, 5,800. That is pretty cheap. And but he hasn't had a lot of real high output lately. And maybe he had some injury issues lingering because he had a hamstring problem or something where he played like one play and then left the game, I think, back in week 14. Or maybe he just, but he had 8 for 128 and a touchdown. So against New England week 16. So I'm not really sure. He just, if there is a forgotten receiver, he's the forgotten one. It ain't T. Higgins goes off and Chase gets shit. It's that or both of them. So that's my opinion. And just like I do my intro, you might want to send an ambulance or maybe a Hurst, Hayden Hurst in the mix, 4 for 6 or 4 on 6 targets, 45 yards. He's got a pretty safe floor for 3,200. All he needs to do is get in the end zone. He hasn't scored since he's been back. He hasn't scored since week 5. So he might be quote unquote due, but he's a good play. I think 3,200 if you want to spend down cheap at tight end. But that's about it for this game. I think, and like I said, I have a hard time getting a grip on what's going to happen in this game. So I'm going to have to put my thinking cap on a little more. But that's first impressions. Dallas and San Francisco Cowboys, baby. Let's go. Boy, Dak in the offense looked so sharp. I could not believe how sharp they looked. And that might be attributed to the basic laydown of the Bucks. I mean, they couldn't do anything. I mean, that was just like they didn't even want to be there. It was unbelievable. And, go Brett Maher for, now hook, now slice, now hook, with the kicks. It was crazy. But anyway, Dak looks so sharp. I don't think he's going to get the same production again, but they're going to have to throw because I don't think they can do a whole lot of running. I said this in the last week's video. Zeke, Let me see. Zeke 13 for 27. I knew he was going to have trouble running. He's just he's a goal line guy, touchdown dependent anymore. He doesn't really have the explosiveness Pollard does. So he did get 13 carries because they were up big. So I don't see him getting a whole lot of love again. But Pollard got 15, 3 catches for 12 yards, 77 yards. So if you're going to play a Dallas running back, it's Pollard all day. Um, Now, Dak, I'm feeling Lamb a little bit this week. I feel like if he gets hooked up with Charvarius Ward like DK Metcalf did last week, he's going to have a good game. So I like CD Lamb this week. Gallup, if he can repeat what he did last week, I'd love to play him. He's just so inconsistent. You know, 46 yards and a touchdown. If you gave me 15 points with him, I'd be very happy. But anyway, CD Lamb and Dalton Schultz would probably be the two guys that would be most often stacked. That would be the most popular stack by far. The other two guys with Ty and Noah Brown, they're kind of losing their luster. This is the playoffs, so they're going to be starting to go the big dogs more. Dalton Schultz, by the way, I think might get more blocking duties against this aggressive San Francisco edge rushers. So I'm a little skeptical. They just cut him loose last week, and he just ran roughshod all over Tampa Bay. So, but I think that he won't be able to do that this week as much. So, that just keep that in mind. And moving over to Brock Purdy, the game of his life. I mean, he'll, he could keep that tape and just pop that in whenever he wants to show his grandkids, look what I did. If he does that again, I'd be stunned. That was a pretty weak Seattle defense he threw on. I give him credit though. He does this, and he is actually probably the best fit as a quarterback for this team with all the weapons they have. They've got McCaffrey, they've got Mitchell, they got Debo. They don't need a running quarterback, so they need to just get rid of Trey Lance. He's out. And I would probably keep Jimmy G just like they did as a backup and maybe just give this kid a shot. I don't know. Or vice versa. You can bring back Jimmy G and keep this kid in the backbone and bring him in if you need to. But he takes what the defense gives him. He's pretty good at surveying the field and checking down when he has to. He loves Ayuk over the middle. So Ayuk is one guy that I would play. McCaffrey, he loves to dump off to. He's only 8K. He'll be massively popular at 8K. And why not? I think he'll struggle a little bit more against this Dallas defense. They've got quick linebackers. Van Der Esch is back. So, guys like that. Debo or Ayuk, I think one of these two guys could get loose. If you see one of these corners for Dallas make a mistake and try to jump a route and get double moved on, they could get scored deep. Kittle, touchdown dependent, but what tight end isn't touchdown dependent, honestly? So this is going to be a really good game, and there's so many pieces. Game theory comes into play overall. So I'm going to cut it off there, and appreciate you guys watching. Tune in for more content coming. Next week's golf tournament will be out probably Sunday. And smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And until the next time, we'll see you soon. Appreciate you watching.